Alrighty, so cheers, everybody. This is what people do in social media, I find. They drink coffee. Simultaneous sip. So, this is going to be about the documentary Social Dilemma. Uh, like many of you, you probably have heard of this and have been had this recommended to you. Um, and I finally watched it last night. Um, and I have an opinion that I have not heard anybody else say. I've only heard positive opinions about this documentary. And the opinion I have is a negative one, which is to say that this documentary is pure propaganda. Now, when I say pure, I don't mean total propaganda. There's definitely good things in the documentary. It does illuminate the industry, the social media industry for you. It gives you some things to think about in regards to how social media can cause negative things in your life. It's a sort of a wake up call type scenario. That part is good. So when I say pure, I don't mean, again, total. What I mean by that is that mixed in with this positive aspect is the poison pill. And that's the leftist agenda. And I'll get into what that is exactly. But understand something, and you may not agree with my take on it. If you saw the film, maybe you don't agree with that. But I think we can all agree that the best way to get a lie across, the best way to manipulate, is to first um, start with truth. To sandwich that uh, negative thing around, with something positive, and that's what I think this does. So Social Dilemma, for those who may have not seen it, is basically the social media people that, um, I think they still work for the industry. So it's not like they're whistleblowers, but they definitely give you the opinion that they have a negative view of the industry. They don't like the direction that the industry is headed, and they don't like the negative impact that it's having on people. And that's really the thrust of the movie as it starts. It's depicting how social media has become constructed, and a lot of this we know, but having it laid out is pretty eye opening, and this is probably why people recommend it. So what it basically does is it explains how social media data mines you. It takes, it's constantly taking your information in any way that it possibly can, and what it wants to do is sell you things, or sell advertisements, and it does this. So you are the product to a certain extent, and what happens is that the more you are on, the smartphone or the computer, the more opportunities the social media companies have to sell advertisements. And so the way that the industry has been shaped is that all the data that it takes from you is fashioned in such a way as to continually put things in front of you that it thinks you enjoy. And so, what happens is that and then this is where the negativity comes in. Now, it does talk a little bit, about, it shows the typical thing in regards to people not interacting with each other. I mean, we all know that that's a danger. You see people at restaurants with, nobody's talking to each other, are all on their cell phones and that sort of thing. So it talks about that a little bit and kind of shows you that. But it also, really digs into this idea that what happens is it all our social media platforms are creating, because it's wanting to drive these keep bringing you back, it's creating an echo chamber around us. And so we're continually just seeing only what we want to see, essentially, I guess. Um, I think that part of it is true, but only partly true. I think also there's, you know, it, it's not a, on, I'm trying to figure out what the best way to say this is, but um, for me, I'll just say for what's true for me, I think it's clear that the social media people have an agenda too. It's not just to say that they're interested in just showing you what you want. Within that, they're trying to spin it in such a way as to try to drive you certain places. I mean, that is the goal of advertisement anyway. Um, it's to it's to get you to want something that you never thought you wanted, right? I mean, that's advertisement. That's always been advertisement. So to sit there and say it's only interested in providing everything for you and that it's just an echo chamber, I think is to be overly simplistic. Um, but that is in where the issue, the poison pill that I see about this lies. So in this film, what they do is they give you, as these executives are speaking, they've cut the movie in such a way as to where they have a real life example, a fictitious example of this kid, and he's got a sister, and he's got parents, and it's this um, evolution of this kid through this process of social media, um, to a certain extent, like I don't know, a certain amount of time, a segment of this kid's life, and so he is the guinea pig. He's the example for us all to watch. The poison pill is this: when it talks about the echo chamber, what it does is it sets it up in such a way as all the negative stuff is right wing. If it was truly interested in societal benefit of warning us about the dangers of social media, it would want to warn all of us. And the way that it comes across is that only the right wingers are the ones that are getting the false information. I mean, I think there was a line in there that said something about false information is more exciting than true information. And they were saying this in the midst of sort of setting this stage where everybody, here's this kid and he's a right winger and he's following these, um, everything he believes now is false. And it just happens to be all on the right, right? And of course, right, because social media companies are all left. Why why would they be balanced in this approach? And this is the insidious part of this. So there's this whole thing where what's created is this idea is that you don't want to be like that kid. And it's not just to say he's a sucker for his device, it's that he's a sucker for bad information, and that bad information happens to be everything on the right. That's the poison pill. That's what they've injected into the storyline, and what could be a really good um, warning for everybody in regards to dealing with this new technology. Instead, it was twisted. Instead, it was, orange man bad type stuff. Um, and that's the bad part that I really, uh, it's sad because I went through this process of watching this and thinking, you know, here's this opportunity, I'm taking in the information, like, yeah, they're warning me and they're giving me this good information, and then all of a sudden, they want to do that where why does it have to be partisan? And I get politics I don't say you avoid politics, but they could have easily, even if they gave the example of the right wing, they could have at least thrown in through the commentary left wing negative stuff. Not one thing. And I was sitting there with my wife and daughter, and we were watching this, and I was mentioning what I was seeing, and I said, now let's see if they give a counterpoint, a counterbalance to this. They never did. They never did. And this is the stuff that bothers me, because you can be out of balance either direction. This idea that wrong is just one direction is, that is the bias, right? I mean, in a way, it's saying you don't want to, you need to be fearful because you can become so, it caters to your bias so much that you can become so inculcated in it. And yet, the movie itself is inculcated in bias. I mean, that's the crazy thing about it. And so and you could tell that one of the tech insiders was the main pusher of, I don't know if he produced it. I didn't really dive into the details of it, other than to look up this guy's Twitter. And I know it's funny because he tended to bag Facebook a little bit in this, which I get. But apparently, based on what I saw on his Twitter, I think he's upset that Twitter doesn't do enough to limit free speech. And see, I'm a free speech guy. I don't think I need a nanny state. I don't need nanny companies. When did the left become the side of the political spectrum where they wanted corporations to control stuff? I thought they were always against corporations being massively large and influential. Now it's okay that Twitter and Facebook and Google and these companies completely wipe their butt on their users' freedoms by arbitrarily choosing when to enforce their guidelines. The, you have to be completely biased to not see that this is going on. And then when you expect a movie to come out that is talking about the negative aspects of social media, why doesn't it talk about it from that way? Instead, it's actually making the opposite case. It's making the case that the people can't be trusted. That's really the insidious part of it. Like, you can't be trusted because the information that you're getting, and think about what is being said here. So, where can you go now? So, if you get on your phone and you look at the alternative sources, because that was what was put in here, right? There's these alternative sources that this kid is going to, and you don't want to be like that kid because he's being led astray by all these alternative sources. So what it's really saying is that you need to come on back to the mainstream sources because those are the ones that can be trusted. But that's not true. That's just not true. And this is the insidious part. So everybody's running around, not everybody, but a lot of people are running around saying this is this great movie, or this, great thing that we should watch and consider. And I just want to let everybody know they need to also consider when they watch this that there's some huge bias here. And again, in warning us about the bias, the movie in and of itself is focused one direction, so it is itself biased. And again, the guy, when I looked up on Twitter, I looked up his contacts. I'm like, well, let me see who this guy follows, right? And so, as I'm scrolling through his contacts, and there's a bunch of people I don't know. I mean, it's like Twitter, but the names, the main names, all left wing, except for, and I don't know exactly how Twitter works. I think the most recent follows are at the top. There was like 3 conservative type people there. Everybody else was left wing. So the guy that's lecturing us on echo chamber has created for himself his own echo chamber on his own Twitter page. So again, to me, that just sort of drove home the point, put the exclamation point on what I saw. And let me know what you think. I think this is something that, if you're going to, I can tell you now, if I tell anybody to watch this, it'd be just to say, hey, uh, I don't know. I don't even think I'd tell anybody to watch this. I think it's the that poison aspect of it tainted the whole thing for me. So let me know what you think.